Love is as love does. Your first love, my friend, is the most sacred of all loves. And if you abandon your first love, you'll spend the rest of your life trying to find love to match up to first love and never find it. God says, by the way, I want to be your first love. I didn't save you so you could go through the motions. I saved you because I want to love you and you to love me. I'm in love. Not any old love. Not someone I picked up at the bar or met in the park. I'll tell you who it is. I got saved because I didn't want to split hell wide open. And the God that loved me enough to take on my sin and my shame and my guilt, I will love with all my heart. He is my first love.
We are Church of the New Creation. Welcome to our channel. My name is David. John in the Bible tells us grace and truth came by Jesus. Thank God Jesus didn't just bring more truth we probably can't do, but he brings us the grace every time to respond to it, to believe it, and to move forward with God. So today, let's join my dad and receive all the grace Jesus has for us today.
Every time I hear that song, I remember 1965 in the fall, when I was invited to that little church by a friend of mine who took more than a year to convince me I was going to go. And I didn't want to. I believed in God. I mean, who doesn't believe in God? Unless you're really stupid, you don't believe in God. It's nothing, just all happened. But it doesn't mean so I have to go to church. All this other stuff. I mean, I talked to him. Hope he hears, not sure he does. Who knows if he hears or not? That's the big deal. But I went, and I found out that you can and need and must know this God in this life before you can be welcomed by him into his home in the next life. He's not letting any strangers in. And that was made possible by his overwhelming, incredible love, which, by the way, I'm sick of hearing about. We've reduced it to a syrup. And I'd like to remind you that the God of love also blows stuff up. Yeah, in case you're not sure what this guy looks like. He's a man and God. An all-powerful God. I mean, what kind of power does it take to speak the worlds into existence? I mean, you know what I saw this week? That the FDA approved these laboratory-produced pieces of chicken. They take a little something out of the cells of an egg, put it into something else and whiz, 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 and work on it and keep feeding this cell with something or other, and it turns a piece of chicken about this big, and then they want us to eat it. And it's going on the market, N-O-W. I say, eat the thing. I'm not. But anyhow, what's that going to do with this morning? Absolutely nothing. That's our best shot. He took something he made, that is God. We fiddled with it with things he made, that is God. I made an ugly piece of chicken that looks pretty dry to me, that big. I don't like white chicken, how about you? That stuff dries out if you look at it sideways. But let's not start talking about food because I'm quite hungry right now. We're quitting going to eat. We're going to reassemble at my favorite restaurant. Bye. No. You see, God is God, and stop misunderstanding God because we've reduced some things to such a shallow, weak level that must be what God is like. And he isn't. And anyone would be absolutely crazy, amazing enough to say to his son, it's time we showed up on that planet and got them out of trouble. That's why Jesus came. I mean, that's crazy stuff. It's real. Now that's backing up love. Oh boy, I'm not thinking about that movie I just saw. No, yeah, Forrest Gump. He's at the bus stop and he says, stupid is as stupid does, ma'am. And I've changed that slightly for the message. Love is as love does. Go to my fair lady. Stop saying you love me, show me. Oh, that's a fun thing to say, isn't it? Especially to the right person, under the right circumstances, in the right place. But the fact is, that's what God said. I've told you I love you. Now I'm going to show you how much I love you. I'm going to take all the stuff you've got coming myself. He who knew no sin, the Son of God, became sin for us. Why? Well, let's not get to the why until you understand the fact he became sin for you. So don't tell me he doesn't like you, at least. Don't tell me he isn't trying to do something wonderful for you, because that's nonsense. And I start with that because I want you to so beautifully and clearly understand the fact that you are not doing God a favor becoming a Christian. People treat him that way. Well, I'll go to church then if you really insist. How do you stay home and eat a donut? Really, we need that space. It's true. Well, I'll read my Bible then if you really think it'll do me some good. Oh. Do God a favor and go to heaven and not hell. Shish kebab. Who needs it? I'm saying all of that to say this. He did that not because he needed to. He could have stopped the whole mess and said, well, I'm starting again. I don't like where that went. And we'd have been turned into dust or something. But he didn't. The Bible says, while we were yet sinners, and actually the text puts it beautifully, while we were yet in the process of sinning, doing our worst to show we didn't care, we're doing our own things to jump. He said, they need you. Get down there and die for them. And today, Christianity is known for the wrong things, so it's breeding the wrong kind of people. Man, I hate church. Not this one. Well, I have my days on this one too, but so do you, so shush. Yeah, I got you on that one. I know you guys, because we're all human. Remember Romans 8 and 7. 3 laws ever prevail. Number 1 is the law of sin in the flesh unto death. We got it. It's a law in me. It means I'm always thinking stupid, bad, crazy stuff with God standing right in front of me. Don't be surprised by yourself. Don't act surprised by me. We're just in need. And in the middle of that need, God says, I happen to love you enough to where I can turn this whole thing around for you and do for you what you can't do for yourself, so that you can learn about living a life that's worth living. Now, when you say all of that, you understand that when he died on the cross and he was buried, what a terrible process. He went to hell for you and me, and he rose again on the 3rd day. That it was a pretty serious thing. The Bible says he rose from the grave, a life-giving spirit, ascended into heaven, and is seated today at the right hand of God, ready to kick the blazes out of you. No, actually, it says he's seated at the right hand of God on a throne of grace. If I have to die for you, there's a good chance you're paying back. You know, I'm waiting for you at the door, honey. Live long, but I want to get you. I had to die for you, and you haven't even said thank you. No, when he rose from the dead, having paid the most terrible price, he sat on the throne of grace. That's crazy love. That means there's no one ever died and gone to hell. He wanted to go there. That's why in John chapter 3 he said, I have not come to condemn, but to call the needy, the sinner, to righteousness, to get saved. I'm here to save you, not kill you and point out your bad faults. And I'm here to tell you today, when Jesus said, I've come that you might have life more abundantly, it wasn't just an exceptionally good day for him. And I'm here to tell you boldly, look, I was saved in 1965, and today I'm 76. Not this day. March 1, the terrible thing happened. But I'm here today to tell you that your life does not have to be this way, but you're so stubborn. Man, you know so much. You're so smart. It's a miracle God hasn't raised you up to heaven right now to advise him. Bring all your crazy books with you. Lord, I read a book. You're going to see this thing. I got news for you. I've got news for you. She's not mad. She's always good. Just in case you think Shay is storming out of this place, cussing as she goes. No, she's fine. Let's get back to what I am saying. What I am saying is this. You are not doing God a favor coming to God and saying, okay, I'll become a Christian. Brother McCree, but people, you see, no one actually says that. But somehow we're not smart enough to line up what we say and don't say with what we do. It doesn't match up. We need that box of chocolates again that our buddy had at the bus station. Well, after a box of chocolates, I can't say it the way he does. It's a miracle he's bitten his tongue off. But I've got news for you, honey. God really did love you, and he put his life on the line for you to prove, to match up, to show you he meant what he said. When he said, I am not willing that any should perish, but that all should be saved. My beautiful friends, he didn't say perish because he was trying to think of words that started with a P. Perish in the text means, if you've ever been to Missouri, well, at least as far back as I went there in the 70s, you'd invariably see a car on the side of the road or in the field somewhere, just abandoned, grass growing up through it, and you'd see the tires were perished. They would turn whitey gray and crumble and chalky and just fall to bits. That's what the same word perish. He says, I don't want you to turn into that old tractor tire, that old car tire that's been lying in the sun for 40 years and drying out and becoming perished and ugly and unusable. I don't want you to turn into that. God is not willing that any should perish, but that all should find out there's a better way. And God is a nicer person. He's got your best interest at mind. And we don't have to understand it from start to finish, but to believe in a good God who died for the sins of the world. And this portion we read as our reading of the scriptures no, I don't want to go there. In Revelation 2, verse 4, God has arrested me with this thing for 3 weeks. Now, those of you who have been here know that I'm in the middle of a series on bringing the romance back into your relationship with Jesus. Bringing your romance back into your relationship with Jesus is the third message. And my third message for today, and God help us to really get this thing, which is crazy, is from Revelation 2:4. Nevertheless, I've got something against you guys, he says. You left your first love. Now, most people are numb enough not to know what first love means. You never get better than your first love. Because that's the first. And you let that love all the way into your backbone. You open up to it, just say things you shouldn't have, especially when the lawyer gets hold of it when you get divorced 5 years later. No, that's not the story. Your first love, my friend, is the most sacred of all loves. And if you abandon your first love, you'll spend the rest of your life trying to find love to match up to first love and never find it. You'll run through a list of people who are stupid enough to get in bed with you. Well, we're having a church service today. But it's true, you see, because I'm a human being too, and I'm a man too. And I can talk about first love. I can talk about chasing after butterflies like a fat head and never matching up. It's sort of like what you do when you go to a restaurant or you order something, and you take that first piece and you eat it, and you say, man, that is disappointing. It's horrible. Well, I'll just try another piece, maybe it'll be better. And man, that's just miserable. Well, let me just have one more in case it upgrades. And you go through a pile of about 7, 8 of these things and feel all bloated, not one of them satisfied. That's what happens when you leave your first love and try to find love. It never does it, and it never gets satisfied like that. And then God says, by the way, I want to be your first love. And you look at all those church members did that church. That's a fine list. I'd like to say all of us were doing all of this. I know your works, I know your labor, I know your patience, I know you cannot bear evil. Oh, that's cute. And you were watching it on TV last night. You test those who are frauds and find out if they are. You stay away from them. You persevere, you're patient, you love me, you love my name, you don't become weary. Hey, that's quite a nice list. But he says, look at something against you. None of this is operating in the world of love. Somehow it's duty or responsibility or obedience or commitment or doing the right thing or fear or anxiety. All these things motivate our marvelous actions in church when first love isn't doing it. And so God says, I know all that stuff you're doing, and it's a pretty impressive list. He doesn't have a list like that for any one of the others of the 7 churches to Asia Minor. He said, it's an impressive list. That should satisfy you, God. Hey. And then God says, I didn't save you so you could go through the motions. I saved you because I want to love you and you to love me and you to understand that God is love. And if God is love, how could he expect anything less than that in return? The trouble is, look, I remember when I first got saved back in 1965. That's a long time ago, but I don't remember the details, but I do remember this. I thought I was levitating when I left church. I was so excited. I was so motivated. I was so turned on. This little heathen Christian became a real Christian. I went home. My mother didn't know what to do with me. She wanted to take me to a doctor. I was 18 years of age, and she was terrified I was losing my mind. I wasn't losing my mind. I found my mind for the first time, thank you. But she didn't know that, but she hadn't had her first love yet either. That was my first love. I got into so much trouble with that first love, trying to do things to please that first love and fulfill that the first love and satisfy that first love. They were all stupid. What God puts up with when we first get saved is only what first love can produce and an understanding God can receive. You're acting crazy. Well, honey, I got news for you. I'm a dizzy kind of guy. I'm in love. Not any old love. Not someone I picked up at the bar or met in the park. I'll tell you who it is. Someone looked at me and didn't see how bad off I was. Didn't pay any attention to it, said I died for that. No, I died for that. I've got enough people I've known over the years who can bring up everything I've ever done wrong. I got people who won't even come to this church because they have found something about me they didn't like. Of course, they should let me loose on something about them I don't like, but I don't play that game. Shall we list it now? No. The truth of the matter is, my friends, when you first got saved, you were ridiculous, radical, stupid, and I think young Christians are dangerous. A beautiful danger, but they're in love. They will do anything. They'll give you everything. Scare their parents out of their minds. Scare their wives out of their minds. You're going to give what to the church? They've brainwashed you. That's a cult. And then they send your son off to Vietnam and blow his head off, and that's fine. Yes, you're serving the nation. Well, how do you think I was serving what I just did in church? You see, first love is a powerful thing. It's a big thing. It's all-consuming. And the saddest thing for God and those of us who are still in our first love is to see Christians who have walked away from their first love and are trying to regenerate it in something else, in someone else, in a career, in an opportunity, in a sex relationship, in another marriage. We are irreconcilably different. I'm getting a divorce. Honey, could I say something as a minister? I was irreconcilably different and upset with my wife before I was married. It has never changed because we're two different people. What's that got to do with it? My feelings were hurt. Honey, you're going to get those things hurt all your life long. Even Jesus is going to hurt your feelings. What's that? You think? You've been listening to too many liberal psychologists who tell you, oh, you're frail. Oh, you're going to get hurt. You may never recover. Do you think God is so stupid to make me that I can't go through that and never recover? I'm made in the image of God. I can take it. I didn't say I liked it. Didn't say I want to go through it, but I can take it. Let's get back to the message, because I'm about to go on a magnificent tangent. He says in verse 4 of Revelation 2, you, church member, have left your first love. Oh, shame. Maybe you didn't mean to. Maybe you weren't careful enough. Maybe you had no choice in the matter. Your first love left you. I don't know. But God said, I am not a man that I should be treated like a man. I am God. And I sent my son to die for you, to save you, and to never bring up your faults or your past ever again. I've anointed men to deliver. I've anointed and women to heal, to teach, to preach, to comfort, to help, to guide. I've given all these gifts out, 9 of them, 9 by my Holy Spirit, just to keep you blessed, just so you enjoy the journey. So don't talk to me about walking away from your first love, Jesus. I will thank the writer of that old hymn in heaven one day, Jesus, lover of my soul, let me to thy bosom fly. Ooh, there may be 100 million up there. I don't know how many, but I'm getting to the front of that line, sucker, so watch out. The fact of the matter is, you know what it is. You know, we become complacent and we're not grateful anymore as much as we used to be for what he's forgiven me of. Do you know how horrible hell is? Look, I don't want to preach hell to you to remind you of what we missed. But it's an everlasting fire. It is pitch black with that serious heat. There's a worm in hell that ever eats and never consumes. There's torment, and whatever love is not in hell. It's a place where, well, I'm going to meet my friends. Honey, you got no friends in hell, not one. It's all full of unlove and hate. Why do you think people get saved? Because we're stupid and brainwashed and religious? I might be stupid. I'm not brainwashed and I'm not religious. I got saved because I didn't want to split hell wide open. And the God that loved me enough to take on my sin and my shame and my guilt, I will love with all my heart. He is my first love. But you know what Christians don't do?
Thank God for the grace to receive and believe all he has for us. If you're in South Florida, I invite you to join us for one of our Sunday services live. It is the best place to be in South Florida on Sunday morning, and I know you will hear from God, be encouraged by people around you, and be touched by God's Spirit. We'll put the address in the description below. I look forward to seeing you there. Also, don't forget to click the thumbs up below this video and subscribe to our channel, and you can click the little bell for notifications. I'll see you again next time.